When my husband told me the restaurant I'd spent $480,000 building was having its grand opening last Saturday, and that I wasn't on the guest list, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I smiled, looked him right in the eye, and said, "That's fine. I hope your mother enjoys cutting the ribbon on my building." He didn't understand what I meant. Not yet. But he would. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Elena. I'm 32 years old, and I'm an architect based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I graduated top of my class at NC State, landed a position at one of the best firms in the Southeast, and by the time I was 28, I had already led the design on 2 commercial projects that won regional awards. I say this not to brag, but because you need to understand something. I built my career with my own 2 hands. Nobody handed me anything. I met Marcus at a friend's barbecue in the summer of 2019. He was tall, charming, funny. He had this way of making everyone around him feel like they were the most important person in the room. He told me he'd always dreamed of opening his own restaurant. Not a chain, not some franchise. A real, from-scratch, farm-to-table place that would put Charlotte on the culinary map. His eyes lit up when he talked about it, and honestly, that passion was one of the things that made me fall in love with him. We got married in the spring of 2021. Small ceremony, big love. Or at least that's what I thought. From the very beginning, his mother Diane made it clear she didn't think I was good enough for her son. She never said it outright, not at first. It was always subtle, little comments at dinner. "Oh, Elena, you must be so tired working all those long hours. Marcus needs someone who can be home more." Or, "It's such a shame you're always buried in blueprints. A wife should be present." She'd smile when she said it, like she was offering friendly advice, but the message was clear. In her eyes, I was a working-class girl from Raleigh who had no business marrying into her family. Marcus never defended me. Not once. Whenever I brought it up, he'd wave his hand and say, "That's just how Mom is. She doesn't mean anything by it." But she did. She meant every word. About a year into our marriage, Marcus started talking seriously about the restaurant again. He'd found a location, an old warehouse space on South Tryon Street that had incredible bones. High ceilings, exposed brick, huge windows overlooking the street. He was excited. I was excited for him. And when he asked me to design it, I was thrilled. This was the kind of project I lived for. A chance to create something beautiful from nothing, and to do it for the man I loved. But there was a problem. The numbers. The lease alone was $8,000 a month. The renovation would cost a fortune. Commercial kitchen equipment, permits, interior design, furniture, staffing. Marcus had some savings, about $60,000, but it wasn't even close to enough. That's when he looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Baby, I know this is a lot to ask. But if you invest in this, it's not just my dream, it's our dream, our future." I believed him. I believed every word, so I pulled from my savings. I took out a line of credit against a rental property I owned. I redirected funds from a project bonus I'd been saving for years. All told, I put $480,000 into that restaurant. Every single penny was documented, every transfer recorded. My name was on the investment agreement. I made sure of that, because my father always told me, "Love is love, but money is money. Keep receipts." Thank God for my father. The next 14 months were the busiest of my life. I was working my regular job during the day and spending every evening and weekend on the restaurant design. I drew up the floor plans. I sourced the materials. I designed a custom bar that was shaped like a river, flowing through the center of the space, because Marcus said he wanted guests to feel like they were dining by water. I hand-selected the lighting fixtures. I personally oversaw the contractors. I was there when they poured the concrete, when they installed the kitchen hood, when they hung the sign out front. The sign that read Tryon and Vine. Not Marcus and Elena's. Not our place. Just Tryon and Vine. I didn't think much of it at the time. During the construction, something started to shift. Marcus became distant. He was always on his phone. always texting someone. When I asked who, he'd say the contractor or the supplier or the marketing person. There was always an explanation. But the explanations started to feel rehearsed. Then his mother started showing up more. Diane would come to the construction site with fabric samples and paint chips, as if she were the designer. She'd look at my plans and say things like, "Don't you think this is a little too modern? Marcus's vision is more classic." Marcus's vision, not ours. His. One afternoon, I overheard Diane talking to Marcus in the back office. I had come in early to check on the electrical work, and they didn't know I was there. Diane said, "You need to start thinking about who's going to be the face of this restaurant, Marcus. Elena is a lovely girl, but she's an architect, not a restaurateur. People need to see sophistication. They need to see class." I waited for Marcus to say something, anything, to tell his mother that I was the reason this restaurant existed, that without my money, my design, my sweat, there would be no restaurant. He said, "I know, Mom. I'm handling it. Handling it, like I was a problem to be managed." I went home that night and sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes before I could bring myself to go inside. I told myself I was overreacting, that the stress of the build was getting to everyone, that once the restaurant opened, things would settle down and Marcus would remember what we'd built together. 3 weeks before the grand opening, I noticed a new name popping up on Marcus's phone, someone named Vanessa. He said she was a brand consultant he'd hired to handle the restaurant's social media and public image. I asked when he'd hired her. He said a few months ago. I asked why I hadn't met her. He said, "She works remotely. It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. Because 2 days later, I was picking up dry cleaning from the shop near the restaurant, and I saw them. Marcus and a woman I'd never seen before, sitting in the window booth of the coffee shop across the street. She was beautiful. Dark hair, red lipstick, laughing at something he said, and the way he was looking at her, I knew that look. He used to look at me that way. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I went home, opened my laptop, and started digging. I found Vanessa Price on LinkedIn, brand strategist and lifestyle consultant. Her Instagram was full of photos from restaurant openings and food festivals. And buried in her tagged photos from 3 months ago, there it was. A picture of her and Marcus at a wine bar in Asheville, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning like they didn't have a care in the world. 3 months. He'd been seeing her for at least 3 months while I was staying up until 2 in the morning finalizing his restaurant's design. My hands were shaking, but I didn't cry. I had learned a long time ago that tears don't solve problems. Evidence does. I called my friend Priya, who happens to be one of the sharpest real estate attorneys in Charlotte. I told her everything. She said, "Elena, don't tip your hand. Don't say a word to him. Let's look at the paperwork first." So that's what we did. Priya went through every document, every contract, every transfer receipt, and what she found made my blood run cold. Marcus had filed amended paperwork with the county 3 months earlier, listing the restaurant's primary owner as Diane Mitchell, his mother. My name, which had been on the original investment agreement as co-owner, had been moved to a line labeled Design Consultant, Contracted Services. He had effectively reclassified my $480,000 investment as a fee for architectural services. Services that had already been paid in full according to a forged invoice bearing my signature. He forged my signature. My own husband sat down, practiced my handwriting, and signed away my ownership of a building I designed and funded. Priya looked at me across her desk and said, "Elena, this is fraud. Clean-cut textbook fraud. We can go criminal or civil. Your call." I said, "Both. But not yet. Let him have his opening first." Priya raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" "I'm sure. I want him to taste it. I want him to stand in that room I built and feel like he's on top of the world. And then I want to take it all away." Priya smiled. "I like it." The week before the grand opening, Marcus sat me down at the kitchen table and said, "So, about Saturday night." He was fidgeting with his watch, which he always did when he was about to say something he knew I wouldn't like. "The opening?" I said. I've already picked out my dress. That navy blue one you like? He cleared his throat. Actually, we've decided to keep the guest list pretty tight. Close family and business partners only. Mom thinks it should be an intimate event. You know, to set the tone. I stared at him. I'm your wife, Marcus. I know. But Mom feels like, given that this is a professional event, it might be better if you come to the soft opening next week instead. She thinks what? That the woman who designed the building and paid for it shouldn't be there when the doors open? He put his hands up, the way he always did when he wanted me to calm down. It's not like that. It's just optics. Vanessa has a whole media plan, and she thinks the narrative should focus on the culinary vision, not the construction side. Vanessa. Of course. Vanessa had a media plan. Vanessa thought the narrative should focus on culinary vision. Vanessa, who was probably going to be standing right next to my husband on opening night while I sat at home in the dress I'd already picked out. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Okay, I understand. I hope it goes well." Marcus looked relieved. He actually looked relieved, like he'd been dreading this conversation and couldn't believe it had gone so smoothly. He kissed my forehead and said, "Thanks for being so understanding, babe. Next week, I promise, it'll be all about you. All about me." Sure. That Friday night, the night before the opening, I put my plan into motion. Priya had prepared everything. A cease and desist letter for Marcus. A fraud complaint filed with the Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office. A civil lawsuit for the recovery of my $480,000 investment plus damages. And one more thing. See, here's what Marcus and Diane didn't know. When I designed that restaurant, I retained the intellectual property rights to the architectural plans. It's standard in my contracts, and it was in the original agreement Marcus signed before he started forging things. That meant the building's design, the layout, the custom bar, the lighting plan, all of it belonged to me. And without my written authorization, the restaurant couldn't legally operate in a space built to my proprietary specifications. Any attempt to do so would be a violation of my IP rights, and I could seek an injunction to shut it down. Priya filed for the injunction Friday afternoon. Saturday night, the grand opening of Tryon and Vine went off beautifully. I know because I watched the Instagram stories. Diane was there in a floor-length gown, acting like she'd built the place herself. Vanessa was there in a red dress, standing next to Marcus, smiling for the cameras. The food looked incredible. The wine was flowing. Everyone was having the time of their lives. Marcus called me at 11 that night. "You should see this place, babe. It's packed. Everyone loves it." "I'm glad," I said. "Enjoy it." "I will. See you later tonight." "See you." He came home at 2 in the morning smelling like champagne and someone else's perfume. I pretended to be asleep. Monday morning, a process server walked into Tryon and Vine at 10 a.m. and handed Marcus 3 envelopes. The cease and desist, the fraud complaint, and the injunction notice. Marcus called me 17 times in the next hour. I didn't pick up. He called Diane. Diane called me. I didn't pick up for her either. Finally, at noon, I answered. "What the hell is this, Elena?" His voice was shaking. Not with anger, with fear. "It's exactly what it looks like, Marcus. You forged my signature. You transferred ownership to your mother without my knowledge. You reclassified my investment as contracted services. And you did it all while sleeping with your brand consultant. Did I miss anything?" Silence. "The injunction means you can't operate the restaurant using my architectural plans. Which, given that I designed literally everything about that building, means you can't open your doors. Not legally. You can't do this." "I already did. And Marcus?" "The DA's office has the forged documents. Priya made sure of that. So you might want to call a lawyer. A real one. Not your mother." He started to say something, but I wasn't finished. "Oh, and one more thing. You told me the opening was for close family and business partners only. So when the bills start coming in, and the loan payments are due, and the vendors want their money, go ask your close family and business partners. Because my money? My money is for people who actually consider me family. I hung up. The next 3 weeks were chaos for Marcus. The injunction held. The restaurant couldn't open. Vendors started calling, demanding payment for food deliveries, linens, equipment rentals. The $60,000 Marcus had in savings evaporated in days. Diane tried to hire a lawyer to fight the injunction, but when her attorney saw the forged documents, he told her she'd be better off settling. Vanessa disappeared. Funny how that works. The moment the money dried up and the legal problems started, she was gone. No more brand strategy. No more media plans. Just a deactivated Instagram account and a disconnected phone number. Turned out she'd been angling for a partnership stake in the restaurant all along, and when it became clear there was no restaurant to partner with, she moved on to her next target. Marcus meant nothing to her. Diane called me one Tuesday afternoon, and for the first time in our entire relationship, she wasn't condescending. She was begging. "Elena, please. This is destroying Marcus. He made a mistake. People make mistakes. Can't we sit down and work this out like a family?" Like a family. After years of telling me I wasn't good enough to be part of hers, I said, "Diane, you spent 3 years telling me I didn't belong in your family. You told your son to manage me like I was an inconvenience. You showed up to my construction site with paint chips like you owned the place. And then you let him put your name on a building that my money paid for. So no, we can't work this out like a family. Because you made it very clear that I'm not your family. I'm just the architect." She was crying when I hung up. I won't pretend it didn't feel good. The civil case moved quickly. My documentation was airtight. Every bank transfer, every contract, every receipt. My father's voice in my head, "Keep receipts." Marcus's lawyer advised him to settle. The forged signature alone was enough to get a criminal conviction, and Marcus knew it. In the settlement, I recovered my full $480,000, plus $120,000 in damages. I also retained full ownership of the architectural plans, which meant the restaurant space was effectively useless without my permission. I filed for divorce the same week. Marcus tried to fight it, tried to say we could work things out, tried to say Vanessa meant nothing. But the man who forges his wife's signature to steal her money doesn't get to talk about trust. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I kept my rental property, my savings, my career, and my self-respect. Tryon and Vine never opened again. The space sat empty for 6 months before the landlord terminated the lease. Diane had to sell her condo to cover the legal fees and outstanding vendor debts. Marcus moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Last I heard, he was working as a line cook at a chain restaurant. No more farm-to-table dreams. No more culinary vision. Just a man who bet everything on the assumption that his wife was too stupid to fight back. He was wrong. As for me, I started my own design firm 6 months after the divorce. I called it Blueprint and Bloom. My first client was a woman named Tanya, who was opening a bakery downtown. She told me her ex-husband had tried to take credit for her recipes during their divorce. We bonded immediately. I designed her bakery for half my usual rate, and when it opened, I was the first person she invited. "Your family," Tanya told me, handing me a cupcake with my name on it. Family. Not the kind you're born into or marry into. The kind you build. The kind that shows up. The kind that doesn't forge your signature or hide you from the guest list. My firm has grown since then. I've designed 4 restaurants, 2 boutique hotels, and a community center in my old neighborhood in Raleigh. My dad came to the ribbon cutting for that one. He stood in the lobby, looked around at the building his daughter designed, and said, "You built this." "I built this," I said. "And nobody, not my ex-husband, not his mother, not some brand consultant in a red dress, nobody can take that away from me. So if you're out there right now, and someone is making you feel like you're not enough, like your contributions don't matter, like you should just be quiet and be grateful, let me tell you something. Keep your receipts. Know your worth. And when the time comes, don't scream, don't cry, don't beg, just smile and say what needs to be said. Because the people who underestimate you are always the most surprised when you prove them wrong, and honestly, that surprise on their face is worth more than any restaurant. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to Recovery Stories. I read every single comment, and your support means the world to me. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember, you are worth more than anyone has ever told you.